No disintegrations.
As you wish.
Few people would deny that Boba Fett is the most popular supporting character in the Star Wars universe, and prior to the prequels, and more recently the largely derided Disney Plus show The Book of Boba Fett, we were all intrigued by the mystique surrounding the galaxy's deadliest bounty hunter. Boba Fett's legend grew out of his small but pivotal roles in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, although he first appeared on our screens in 1978 in the quite embarrassing Star Wars Holiday Special. This was soon followed by his first toy incarnation, which arrived in 1979 as part of Kenner's range of 3 3/4 inch scaled Star Wars action figures. Since then there have been so many different Boba Fett action figures produced that it can be difficult to keep track of them all, and they range from the awesomeness of the Kenner large-size Boba Fett figure, to the goofy proportions of the Power of the Force 2 version, to the realism of Hasbro's Black Series entries. With such an incredible variety of Boba Fett toys being made over the last 44 years, it's quite amazing that one of the best figures ever produced arrived this year, and it came from an independent toy maker. The new Stan Solo Creations movie-accurate Boba Fett has been produced in the 5 points of articulation Kenner style, and comes in both Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi versions. Yet these figures are a staggering improvement over the Kenner original.
Come with me, toy fans.
Hey toy fans, my name is Tony and welcome back to the Analog Toys YouTube channel. Now that I have these Boba Fetts in hand, I consider them essential to my collection, even though they aren't vintage. But before we take a detailed look at the figures, we need to cast our minds back to the flaws and shortcomings of Kenner's original Boba Fett, in order to fully appreciate the importance of this latest release from Stan Solo. The original Kenner Star Wars toy line ran from 1978 to 1985. And when you compare the early release figures to the characters that came out toward the end of the line, it is easy to see just how much the sculpting of the figures improved over that period, with each subsequent wave getting more accurate to the movie characters, while also maintaining that classic Kenner style. It's also important to remember that this was Kenner's first attempt at making action figures in this smaller 3 3/4 inch scale, and it took them a while to perfect the craft. As such, a large number of the figures based on characters in the first film have some glaring inaccuracies, with probably the most well-known faux pas being the blue Snaggletooth, who was made to be the same height as Luke Skywalker, when he actually should have been almost half his size. So when Kenner's first Boba Fett figure was released in 1979, with a number of inaccuracies, we all took it in our stride, as this was par for the course for fans of Star Wars toys at that time. Another key consideration is that when the Boba Fett action figure was first released, none of us had actually seen the character in live action yet. In the Star Wars Holiday Special, Boba Fett was an animated character, and only a few of us saw it, with the Holiday Special now being erased from the Lucasfilm memory banks like an inappropriate uncle that your family chooses not to speak about. While some casual fans will swear up and down that Boba Fett was in the first Star Wars movie, that's only because George Lucas is like a 4-year-old boy who can't stop playing with his Winky, and he retconned the character into the film when he released the Star Wars Special Edition in 1997. But those in the know will assure you that Boba Fett never appeared in the original theatrical release of Star Wars. So when Kenner first announced a 3 3/4 inch Boba Fett figure, everyone wanted one.
Everyone!
The rabid demand for this new figure was brought on by a combination of factors, not least of which being the fact that this was Kenner's first Star Wars mail-away offering.
From Kenner's Star Wars collection comes the Stormtrooper, the Sand People, and all 20 action figures, including new Hammerhead, Snaggletooth, and more, each sold separately. And now, Boba Fett, Star Wars villain with his laser rifle. Boba Fett is not yet available in stores, but you can get him free with 4 proofs of purchase from any Star Wars action figures. Details on specially marked packs at participating stores. Offer ends May 31st. Star Wars action figures sold separately from Kenner.
Back in the 70s and 80s, all mail-away figures were viewed by children as being somewhat exclusive, and therefore they became highly desirable in our mind's eye. Couple that with the fact that numerous print ads promoted this figure as being based on a mysterious new character from the upcoming Star Wars sequel, and that this figure was expected to come with an exciting rocket-firing feature, Kenner created a recipe for the purest form of plastic crack available. While some of us were disappointed when we finally received the figure and found his rocket permanently glued into his moulded-on pack, we brushed those feelings aside the first time we saw The Empire Strikes Back, and discovered that the character of Boba Fett was just as mysterious, intriguing, and downright cool as the advertising campaign had made the figure out to be.
Put Captain Solo in the cargo hold.
Boba Fett quickly became one of the most in-demand action figures in the range, and that desirability continues on with today's collectors. As cool as this figure was though, it is not without its flaws. The colours used on his paint scheme differ significantly from the costumes that appeared on screen. He is armed with an Imperial blaster instead of his signature carbine rifle. The rangefinder on Fett's helmet has been relegated to a bump in the side of the moulding. His jetpack looks nothing like its on-screen counterpart, and this figure is missing his trademark Wookiee braids and the cape that drapes over his left shoulder.
He's no good to me dead.
The new Stan Solo movie accurate Boba Fett corrects all these issues and improves the overall sculpt and paintwork, while also maintaining the elements of the original figure that did work well. For the most part, the sculpting of the legs, arms and torso needed little alteration, yet Stan Solo did shorten the figure by reducing the height of the hips, and in this comparison shot, you can see that the belt of the Stan Solo version sits a few millimeters lower than the vintage original. This was a brilliant decision, as Boba Fett was one of the shorter bounty hunters to appear in The Empire Strikes Back. And this modification is the first key element in creating a more movie-accurate version of the figure. Other sculpting modifications include the addition of his Wookiee braid hunting trophies that drape over his shoulder and run down the right side of his chest, and the complete redesign of Boba Fett's helmet, which now accurately recreates the silhouette of that iconic Mandalorian headgear, complete with the rangefinder that protrudes up from the right side of the helmet. The new paint scheme used on these figures creates the most significant visual alteration, with the Empire Strikes Back version featuring the green painted armour panels, grey jumpsuit and mustard coloured knee and shoulder pads, which are far more movie accurate, while the Return of the Jedi edition has a darker green paint applied to the torso armour and a more accurate deep brown applied to the gauntlets. More paintwork improvements add important details to the costume that weren't even attempted back in 1979, and they include a row of kill stripes painted onto the side of the helmet, a clan symbol on the right breast of his armour, and the now legendary Mythosaur emblem, accurately painted onto the armour panel on Fett's left shoulder.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
The Empire will compensate you if he dies. Put him in.
In the accessory department, Stan Solo has provided these figures with the essentials required to create a more movie-accurate Boba Fett in this scale. Where Kenner's original figure only came with an incorrect Imperial blaster, the Stan Solo version comes with a carbine rifle, a jetpack, and Fett's signature cloak. The rifle that Boba Fett used on screen in The Empire Strikes Back was noticeably altered for the Return of the Jedi, and here Stan Solo has only supplied us with the Jedi version. Given that they are offering both Empire and Jedi versions of this figure, it would have made sense to give us both versions of Fett's carbine rifle as well, but I also understand that this would increase tooling costs, and since we're talking about an independent toy maker, and not a multi-billion-dollar corporation like Hasbro, Stan Solo can easily be forgiven, especially if this decision was made to keep the retail price down. Stan Solo has also delivered a major upgrade to Boba Fett's jetpack. While I understand that Kenner's original Boba Fett jetpack looks the way it does due to their aborted attempt to offer a rocket-firing play feature, the resulting sculpt doesn't look anything like the jetpack that appeared in the movies. Whereas the Stan Solo version is about as accurate as you can get in this scale. The Empire Strikes Back edition has been produced in the muted green colour palette that appeared on screen in 1980, while the Return of the Jedi jetpack features all of the different colours that were added to the prop for the 1983 film. Another brilliant decision made by Stan Solo when developing these figures was to make the jetpack a removable accessory. In the original Kenner line, the characters that wore packs had the accessories permanently sculpted onto the back of the figure. In fact, the only figure that actually came with a backpack accessory was C-3PO with removable limbs, and he wasn't the intended user, with Chewbacca actually wearing the pack as a means of carrying the damaged protocol droid back to the Millennium Falcon during their escape from Bespin's Cloud City. The only other backpack accessories to appear in the original line were included in the Empire Strikes Back survival kit, which featured 2 Hoth backpacks and 1 Jedi training backpack that Luke could use to carry Yoda around the swamps of Dagobah. One of the major benefits of having this jetpack as a removable accessory is that you can use it to hold the cape in a number of different positions. The Empire Strikes Back cape is issued in the correct tan colour, complete with wide brown stripe, and as you can see here, if you position one edge of the cape behind the jetpack and tuck the other edge under Boba Fett's arm, the cape covers his shoulder. You can also fold both edges of the cape back onto itself and tuck the whole thing behind the jetpack to achieve this look. Of course, for the Return of the Jedi movie, Lucasfilm changed the colour of the cape to dark green, so Stan Solo has given us that option as well. While I believe that this is the best Boba Fett action figure ever made, opinions are subjective, and a lot of people will have different ideas on the matter. Certainly the Hot Toys versions of Boba Fett are among the most detailed and highest quality available, but they're not really action figures. They are high-end collectibles, and to a degree even Hasbro's Black Series fits into that category, being more of an adult collector product than an actual toy designed to be played with. For me, the most important line of Star Wars toys will always be the vintage Kenner 3 3/4 inch range. And with these products, Stan Solo has once again perfectly executed that delicate balancing act of improving upon the original while also delivering a quality action figure that fits seamlessly into your vintage display. As someone who has passionately collected vintage toys for 30 years and only really dabbled with modern, I will always choose a vintage item over a modern toy when it's available to me. So herein lies the biggest compliment that I can heap upon the Stan Solo movie accurate Boba Fett figures. I'm so impressed with them that I actually want to swap them out for the vintage figures in my collection. I never thought I would ever do that with any modern toy, but I didn't count on the resurrection of Kenner Star Wars. A resurrection that came in the form of Chris Smith and Stan Solo Creations. So thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video you can click the links up here to check out some of our other videos about Stan Solo products. And you'll find a link to the Stan Solo website in the description below if you would like to secure one of these movie accurate Boba Fetts. I'm Tony from Analog Toys, and I'll see you in the next video.